Be a lot easier for Americans to travel to Cuba and do business there, and easier too for Americans to bring back those famous Cohiba or Cuban cigars and Cuban rum. Our senior political reporter Michael Putney has the story now from our newsroom. Michael.
Calvin, President Obama issued a policy directive this morning easing all kinds of U.S. regulations governing travel and trade with Cuba, and yes, starting by making it easier to bring back those famous Cuban stogies.
Cuban cigars are world famous, but there's been a ban on bringing in more than $100 worth for half a century, no more. President Obama today signed a policy directive allowing travelers from the island to bring in as many cigars as they want to in their luggage, but strictly for personal use. Same goes for Cuban rum. Travelers coming back to the States will now be able to bring in as many bottles as they can fit into their accompanied luggage. President Obama has made opening up Cuba a keystone of his foreign policy legacy, saying engagement is preferable to isolation. In a statement today, the president said the changes facilitate more interaction between the Cuban and American people, including through travel and commercial activities and access to information. Overall, trade and travel between the two countries will be easier. Again, no limit on the number of cigars and rum travelers can stuff into their luggage. Medicines made in Cuba can now be imported to the U.S. as long as they are FDA approved. People will now be able to ship consumer goods purchased online in the U.S. directly to individuals in Cuba. And foreign ships that call at Cuban ports will now be able to sail into U.S. ports without waiting 180 days.
The president says the U.S. and Cuba will continue to have very real differences on issues like democracy and human rights. And as it happens, U.S. diplomats are in Havana today discussing human rights and how Cuba abuses them. In the newsroom, Michael Putney, Local 10 News.